This is TCM. I'm Alicia Malone and joined once again by the authors of the new book, TCM Underground, 50 must-see films from the world of classic cult and late-night cinema. Millie Chirico, hello.
Hi.
And Quatoyiah Murry, hi.
Hey.
Well, now we get to a film that I had only experienced before via Conan O'Brien and Paul Rudd, where every time Paul Rudd would appear on Conan's show, he would show, instead of a clip of his movie, a clip from Mac and Me from 1988. So, Millie, how do you sum up this film? Because what I was reading in your book is that it was inspired by Ronald McDonald and E.T.
I think the best way to describe it would be like if E.T. were a lot worse. And there's also a lot of McDonald's branding. That would be the movie, I think.
Yeah, a lot of product placement happening in this one, Toya, and a story about aliens coming to Earth and very much inspired by E.T. But something I was reading in your book was the fact that the director, Stuart Raffle, had come on last minute after the crew and also had to write the script very quickly.
Yeah, it was an advertiser at McDonald's that, decided, hey, the two biggest things right now are E.T. and McDonald's. So I want to make my version of that. So he already had his idea for what the movie is. And yeah, the director came on last minute. To his surprise, everybody was already hired and he had to write the script in between filming. And it shows when you watch this movie.
Yeah, and as you write, unlike E.T., this alien has a family, but also unlike E.T., this alien is not cute.
Yeah, the aliens are very interesting. I would say slightly terrifying. Not very cute, kind of weird textures of the skin. And they don't really have a moment to me where they've connected. I found myself being freaked out by them, I think, more than, aw.
Yeah. I love that you call it body horror comedy in terms of how the aliens appear.
Exactly. I grew up a horror fan. I'm a lifelong horror fan. So I think as a kid, there was something about this movie that just drew me to it when I first saw it. And I think it is the horror aspect, even though this is supposed to be a family movie. But since I was a kid, this movie has stuck in my head. I've never forgotten it. And so the minute that, we got to write this book and Millie, has already programmed this on Underground, I knew, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely talking about Mac and Me. Other people have to see this.
Yeah, somehow I missed this one. Yeah. I don't know if it came to Australia or not, but I got to see it for the first time, although I think I did it wrong because, Toya, you write that it should be experienced with a group of people, and Millie, this is really the best way to watch a film like this, not alone like me.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I think you would get more value if you'd watched it with other people, just, being that you're sharing this weird experience together. Because sometimes when you watch weird movies alone, you start going, is anybody like paying attention to this? Am I the only person? Am I in a weird vortex, somehow? But yeah, it's definitely one of those films, I think that, and part of what makes it a good cult film is it's the kind of movie that you should watch with people. And I think that's kind of like how it's sustained over the years, is that it's being played in, revival houses and, in people's dorm rooms and stuff. So.
Yeah, and part of the fun of TCM Underground is that we get to experience Slumberground, which is like hanging out with friends on TCM's YouTube and discussing these films. Tell us about this show.
Well, it sprung out of the pandemic, I would say. We were sitting around, not doing much, and we all thought, hey, let's get together and start talking about some of these underground films. And so we started doing them over Zoom, and, they've just been really fun to do. And we basically take a movie from the schedule each month, and we kind of talk about it in our own way. And, we have a lot of fun.
And special guests like our very own Holly Haddesty, who makes us look beautiful
all
the time, our stylist. Yeah, I know she was on for Last of Sheila. And, I mean, that's what I love about these movies, is that I think any film that you can walk away from and want to talk about with friends is of value.
Definitely. Being able to watch it with an audience and have people laugh at the parts that sometimes, when you watch it alone, they're not funny because this is just bad. What is this? But if you watch it with the right audience, it's like, oh, now I see it from this angle. Now this is why this is good. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's time to experience this movie. So here it is from 1988, Mac and Me. So that was Mac and Me. I'm joined again by Quatoyiah Murry and Millie Chirico. So, Toya, I feel like at the heart of this movie, it is about becoming a resident alien, not an illegal alien in America. I felt very inspired by that.
Yeah, exactly. It speaks to the experience of immigration. To be a true American, you have to give in to consumerism. So that's why all the product placement is there. This is actually a high art movie that people have just misread for a very long time.
I mean, it is kind of that like classic, that E.T. storyline of like something falls to Earth and then kids try to hide it. And that part, is obviously like something that we've seen many, many times in 80s films especially. But it's also, again, it's got something different. There's some weirdness to it. I think a lot of it has to do with the aliens themselves, the shameless product placement. I mean, there is some kind of brand in almost every scene. I mean, the character is called Mac. So you think McDonald's, right? And yeah, it's wild.
And then we have to talk about what you call the OMG moment, which is the dance sequence in McDonald's.
Just one of the greatest scenes of cinematic history, in my opinion. There's a full-on breakdance sequence choreographed inside of a McDonald's. And it's just why? Why did we have a musical break all of a sudden?
I couldn't believe how many people were at this McDonald's.
Yes.
Like, they're out in the parking lot doing dance numbers, and then it's packed inside, and everybody just happens to know exactly the dance that
I know. When did they practice? That's what I want to know. So in your book, this film falls under the theme of visual delights, and something that you write in the description about this theme is the idea of so bad it's good. So I'd love to ask you about that idea, because what you get from this book is the fact that you're not being judgmental about these movies. They're really a celebration of them in all their wackiness.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a programmer, I don't ever want to come to the table with like a lot of judgment about what's good and what's bad. I feel like part of, my job is to put movies back out there and have other people watch them and decide for themselves whether or not they like it. And when it comes to cult films, there's definitely a lot of opinions about things, and we could have certainly taken that route. I think, we could have, really like made fun of some of these films. I mean, they're funny and they're weird, and sometimes they're not technically good, but somebody will find joy in them, and I think that's important. And we're just not here to, really judge, what's good and what's bad.
Well, and congratulations, because the book actually is out today, so people can find it. How does it feel, Toya, to be a published author?
It's unreal. I still don't believe it. But, there it is. Here we are. What is life? I'm just along for the ride. This has been truly a pleasure to get to write about these movies specifically and just, get to write them with Millie. I've been a TCM Underground fan for well before I even got involved with TCM. So just to kind of, be able to now have my name be a part of it, it's truly an honor.
And Millie, this really speaks to just the idea of TCM in general, our mantra, which is to keep films alive.
Right. And, all films deserve to be seen, no matter what they are. At least put them out there and see if people respond to them. But it was a joy to write this book with you. Honestly, I'm so happy that you decided to do it. Yeah. And I know it was kind of hard sometimes, but it was such a great experience writing it with you. And cult movies need people like you. And I loved reading through your entries and, basically hearing what you had to say about films, because,
Thank you. And likewise, I mean, when I first came to TCM, I was a fangirl for Millie. So, and Millie, has a cult hero herself, has a huge fan base of people that love, the work that you do. So, I'm just trying to carry the torch and just follow you.
I appreciate that.
Well, I'm a fangirl of both of you. So thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on the book. Millie de Chirico, Quatoyiah Murry, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it for us tonight, but not in our celebration of cult cinema. So up next, we have a film that's very hard to describe. It's a comedy, it's a horror, it's from Japan. It's very interesting to watch, so stay with us.